Autobattlers are so much fun they should be illegal, but they're not, so I decided to make my own. And I gave myself only 2 months to do it, which may sound like plenty of time, but I decided to make it multiplayer. Fortunately, I already have experience making multiplayer games with my other game Spellmasons. For this game, I want the player to be able to create a team of ultra-powerful heroes. You can make an archer with super high attack speed and poison synergies, a tank with tons of armor and thorns to reflect damage, or a priest that procs her skills whenever an ally dies. So I got to work. I repurposed the Spellmasons engine and was able to build a mini working autobattler in only 4 days. I started by changing the engine so that it'd work in real time instead of turn-based, and I made a battle phase and an upgrade phase. In the upgrade phase, a shop appears so that you can pick your fighters and pick their upgrades. I added gold to limit how many guys and upgrades you could buy, and I added player health so that you could actually lose the game. The first version of the shop was very rudimentary. You could pick whichever units you wanted, you could pick from a selection of upgrades, you could pick towers, and you could pick units that provided income. In this early build, the upgrades were way too strong, as you can see. This archer is shooting arrows like a machine gun, and I want that to be possible eventually, but it needs to be balanced so that that's more endgame content. Summoners are one of my favorite units, because the longer they're alive, the more dangerous they become. If you have good enough tanks, your summoner can build up quite an army, and in the early builds of the game, summoner was the meta. Whoever had the biggest and baddest summoner eventually won, which was hilariously fun, but not very balanced. Here I've changed the shop to offer you only a subset of the units, and you have the opportunity to reroll. You can also place units on top of each other to give the unit XP, and when they get enough XP, they level up. This made the game much more strategic, since you can't just pick whatever you want. Now that I've got a solid foundation, I decided to do some work on the shop UI. I placed the upgrades alongside the units that are offered when you reroll, gave short descriptions of what they do, showed how much they cost, and made hotkeys work for both the units and upgrades. This was a big quality of life improvement and made playtesting a lot more enjoyable. At this point, I had had multiple playtests that lasted for over an hour, and the game was actually quite fun already, although it wasn't very balanced. We found ourselves opting to use the same strategies over and over, and the RNG in the shop made that a challenge, so you had to wisely manage your income and your gold, which kept it fun, but the game was sorely lacking variety. I want there to be many paths to victory, and not just a single meta that everyone pushes for. I'm building this game with the Blurry Box, the same artist that worked on Spellmasons with me, and he sent me an early version of the first battlefield, which already is giving the game quite a bit of its own identity. I had the idea to add a parallax effect to the layers in the background, so that the mountains and clouds move when you pan the camera around, which really kind of feels like you're in the world. And I had this really stupid idea to fix the health and gold UI onto the map, which took way too long to build, and I ended up throwing out. So now the game is really starting to shape up. The battles are fun and dynamic, and there is no feeling better than being on the brink of defeat, making a strategic decision, and absolutely decimating the enemy team. With each playtest, the balance gets tighter and tighter. The upgrades are starting to feel really good, but there's still some important things missing. The game's still lacking a feeling of variety. And so I thought really hard about how to solve this problem. One of my favorite things about the game so far is that when you level up units, they get larger. Now this is a bit contentious because people generally hate mixels, and I haven't ultimately decided if I'm going to represent higher level units as larger or not. But for now, for the playtesting phase, it's really fun to watch a gigantic tank smash his way through the enemy lines. The artist came back with a new version of the battlefield, and I have to say, it looks gorgeous. And I finally solved the variety problem. Before, anytime you saw a tank in the shop, that tank was the same as any of the other tanks. And since there's only 6 units right now, I was depending on the variety to come from synergies and upgrades. And it kind of did, but that didn't really deliver, because there was always a best type of unit to put an upgrade on. For example, poison was always best to put on an archer because they had fast attack speed. And so I came up with an idea. Whenever you see a unit in the store, they have a boosted starting attribute and also an ability, which means each tank that you see in the store is going to be tuned differently and useful for different purposes. It's not done, but it's a really solid foundation. I can play it for hours and really enjoy myself, and playing against my friends feels really compelling and challenging. For this update, I made a lot of quality of life improvements. In an auto battler, it's really important that the players can understand what's happening during the battle so that they can make intelligent decisions for the next round. So I added a lot of options for the pop-up text in terms of size and color, so that when something important happens in battle, it's noticeable. So by the end of 2 months, I had indeed made an auto battler, but it's not ready for prime time yet because I really need it to be a great auto battler that has excellent variety of strategy, and I really want to to capture that feeling of coming back from a near loss. And to do that, I need to solve the snowball problem, which is really common in auto battlers, where essentially it's easy for the winners to keep winning, and it's really hard for people who are losing to make up lost ground. Fortunately, this isn't going to be too difficult. I'm going to keep expanding the upgrade system and the amount of synergies that are possible, and keep up with regular playtesting, which is truly the most valuable tool for determining if a game is balanced and if it feels like it has variety or not. I've named the game Some of You May Die, taking direct inspiration from this.
Some of you may die, but it's a sacrifice I am willing to make.
And it already has a Steam page, so if Some of You May Die looks interesting to you, you can wishlist it now and be notified when it comes out.